Welcome to Booklandia, where we review romance novels.
This and every episode are chock full of oversharing and spoilers. Every episode is rated E for explicit.
Hi.
You caught me taking a note. Hi. Hi. Welcome to Booklandia.
I know that this is the 8th episode of this season, and I am still surprised by the fact that the new intro doesn't say "You have been warned." And I kept waiting for that, and that did not, my brain refuses to let go of that phrase.
Perhaps we just, spin it as building anticipation.
Okay, sure. Yes. Mm-hmm. We'll go with that.
The pause between my line and your laugh was not great.
Too short. Too long.
Too long. Far too long.
Too long.
Oh my goodness. I am Ford.
And I'm Sky. The other way. Point the other way. Point the other. There we go. Ooh. It's gonna be a good one, you guys.
Here we go. Luckily, we're talking about a book called Beautiful Mess by Claire Christian, which perhaps gives us leave to be kind of beautiful messes.
I would say we're partially already there.
A heavy partial, like a double shot partial.
Excellent. So before we get started talking about this book, how are you?
I'm not great, and I'm gonna tell you why. I broke this middle fingernail trying to get this oversized ice cube out of its silicone thing just now, and it hurts really bad.
I hate the non-girly broken nails. They do hurt really bad.
Yeah, this one definitely went down to the quick. So anyway, I'm dealing with it like an adult by chewing on it and drinking more alcohol.
Yep, that seems
otherwise
very good.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm a lot right now. A lot of things are happening in my life right now.
Yep.
I feel like I had earlier today, I was like, ooh, I'm going to tell you this when we're recording. Zero memory of, I remember what it is. So I was
well timed. Excellent.
I was talking, someone asked me what my least favorite musical on the planet is. And I said a chorus line. And I'm not going to get into it, but if anyone's interested, at me, and I will tell you why. And then later today, I received an email that asked me to design a show. And I will give you one guess as to which show I was asked to design.
You were asked to design MAME.
Is
that even a musical? Okay. I'm on my second guess, so I've already lost.
It was. The point is that it was a chorus line.
No, yes, of course, because you put that out into the world.
I put that out into the world. So that's what
middle fingers everywhere at you.
That's what I was going to tell you, is that we had this conversation earlier about me not doing energies or affirmations or these are the things I'm putting out into the universe. I don't do that, except apparently, just like Facebook, the universe is listening.
It's almost like the universe hates you, and so it's listening and trying to fuck with your whole life.
I don't know that it hates me, but I definitely think someone up there is like, this will be hilarious. This will be a mess, and we want to watch it.
Or, because this is a philosophical podcast, what if this is how your nihilism manifests in the whole energies world? Like, you're nihilist, you believe in things a certain way, and so the world is like, great, we're going to react accordingly.
I mean, this either way, the timing the absolutely delightful timing of me proclaiming loudly that this is a no, and for someone being like, is it a no though? It was brilliant. It was brilliant.
See, I just haven't seen enough musicals, or not have done enough musicals to know which one I vehemently hate. I'm gonna have to think on this.
There you go. There you go. Well, come back another time when we have had some time to think about it. So yes, that is my story.
I'm gonna stop the whole episode right now.
We're just gonna hang here for this. Excellent.
Just in silence.
Brilliant. Putting the train back on the tracks of romance Booklandia podcast versus my life podcast, which would be a whole lot less exciting than,
but weirdly longer. You got a lot going on. You have a lot of drama right now.
It might be longer. I will agree. Let's get back to Claire Christian and Beautiful Mess. First off,
okay.
Here is, hold on. Am I even doing this in the way that needs to be? Yes. So here is the book cover. At least that's the book cover of the one I have.
That's the book cover of the one I read.
So it is a shattered piece of, well, probably a zoom in, probably, of a shattered piece of pottery. Are you making that face because you don't think that I can say the Japanese word for it? Is that the face? I see the face.
Oh, no. I was like, pottery, and then I saw the layer you were talking about, because it's also a layer of different ripped pages to me.
Oh, the color, okay.
The white, make it bigger again. Make it bigger for the people, please. Like, it's all like ripped sharp shreds of paper, because there's the very bottom layer has writing, quote unquote.
Yes, it does. But they do talk about
the Kashimuro Ichiguro. See, I'll do it. I'll say all the Japanese words. Am I close?
I am gonna need to look it up. We definitely looked it up because we read another book that brings it up. And
I've looked it up in my personal life because I think it's fucking awesome.
Yeah. So, anyways, the book cover is really fun. It does have what looks like letters underneath, some cracks filled in with gold, is what I would say. All right, I'm gonna read this blurb. Oh, you're gonna look up the word properly.
I did it. I've done it. Kinsukori. Kinsukuro. Or kintsugi.
There we go.
Roy or kintsugi. There we go. Where you fix your pottery with gold.
And it makes it stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And
it
great.
Makes it more valuable too.
Oh yes, right, because it's now filled with gold. Literally. Mm-hmm. I will
now let you do the thing you were talking about, and I've kept interrupting you for now the third time. Okay, fourth time.
Sorry about that. Fourth time. So I'm gonna read the synopsis that you wrote that I haven't read yet, so that everybody else can be on board with what happens in The Beautiful Mess. Okay. Count me in.
5, 6, 7, 8.
I hate you very much, but thank you. All right. Ava is still grieving from her best friend's suicide and acting out at school. Her life is a mess. Gideon is an awkward hipster poet who has never had a girlfriend. They are brought together by a magic kebab, and not the sexy kind you're thinking of. They're both broken, but their pieces seem to fit together. Messy but beautiful, but happy moments are fleeting.
Yeah. And now we wait for that timer to wind down.
Okay. Sorry, there's 2 butts in a row, and I was like, what's happening with the butt and the butt?
Look, that's not a bad thing on a romance podcast.
2 more butts in a row. Excellent.
Butts side by side, naked. Okay. This book came out in 2017. This was Claire Christian's first book. And if you've been with us from the beginning, you know that we are obsessed with her other book. I only remember what It's Been a Pleasure, Noni Blake.
There you go. You got it.
Thank you. All I can remember is Noni Blake because that's how we refer to it. So, she is an Australian author, and she is also a playwright, which is very much two hip hip hoorays from, I think, our department as theatrical beings.
Agreed. Fully agreed. This book was, considering that I started with Noni Blake, this book was not what I was expecting. I don't know what I was expecting. It does have the same component parts. It does not hide away from hard things. It does not only tell you the happy, fluffy, funny things. It does share parts of people that are imperfect and in progress. So it is similar, but I don't know what my expectation was. It definitely wasn't this exploration of essentially children with trauma and the adults that don't know how to handle that properly.
Yes. I forget how I described it to you. I think I said it's a little bit Aristotle and Dante and a little bit something else, and I can't remember what that second bit was. Do you remember?
No. Full no.
Okay, great, excellent. Just before we go on too long, I just want to mention that every time you talk, it sounds like you have some sort of water filter happening on your voice.
It's not on my voice, it's on my pipes, because pipes are happening above me and they are doing their job, is what I'm gonna say. The pipes above my head are doing their job. So in case anyone who's listening is into ASMR water features, hooray. And if you are not into that and listening to water dripping makes you go to the restroom, perhaps that is where you should continue listening to the rest of this episode.
Okay, fantastic. I just wanted to make sure that was what was happening. Also, the gate on your microphone is fucking working, because I only hear it when you're talking.
Hooray.
Great. Okay, let's move on from this. And so you're absolutely right in that this is it's purely Claire Christian, but it is like very opposite of Noni Blake, which was all about joy and pleasure and feeling good. And the heart and the root of this is grief and pain and process for that. So my question for you, this book just made me think about all the YAs I've read, and they just like YA as a genre just fucking hits harder. Like the emotional labor and the weight of that emotional labor is, I feel like, 10,000 fold than adult novels. What the fuck? Why? Poor Kay.
Well, so I've had this conversation before because for a while you and I were reading almost exclusively YA. And I think it's because when you are in the teenage years, in early adulthood, graduating from high school, there are a couple of things that are physiologically happening to you as a human, right? Your frontal cortex isn't fully formed, so your impulse control isn't fully present. You're experiencing things for the first time for a lot of people, and everything is really heightened. Like everything is going to change your life forever. And that isn't to say that later in life people don't have those experiences of having their life change forever in an instant, right? Or feeling like this leap of faith is the leap of faith. But I feel like the beginning, like this is where your life begins, is the commentary for people who are graduating. So everything has this really elevated emotional status. Breaking up with your first boyfriend is the worst, as opposed to breaking up with a boyfriend, right? getting your first period. Not that this book has that in it, but like if we go even like to a younger audience, that is the most significant story for a while for some people. And then you're like, oh yeah, you know, like that that sort of diminishes in importance over time. So I think that's just the case for that age group, is that everything is in fact heightened. And if I think of myself in that age bracket, everything was massive. Every emotion was a tsunami. Like there were no okay days. There was like fantastical and phenomenally bad days and nothing in between. And it's just like I think of it as crazy big waves crashing, because that's how it felt. So I think that's that I think that's more common than not. Like I don't think I'm the only kid who lived the like big emotions in their teenage years. But I think that's why YA is so big and also so compelling, because it's the first experiences of love, of loss, of making adult decisions, things like that.
Yeah. Then I have to give mad props to these YA writers who can extrapolate all of those powerful big emotions into literary wonders. Like they're so good at it. It's so good. I'm a little mad about how good it is. So
I mean, not all of them are, but the ones that we find that are good, those are the authors that we keep coming back to. Because we're no longer teenagers. And so reading, sometimes I have read one and been like, it read as a teenage thing and I couldn't relate to it because I'm just too far away from it. But some of them I read and I'm like, oh, I remember feeling this way, or I can relate to this emotion even though I've never lived that experience as a teen. So I think, it's definitely their thing.
In trying to think of the ones that maybe weren't successful at the big teenage emotions, the first thing that comes to mind for me is the Shadowhunter series, because so much of those books are external problems rather than the internal problems of a teen and hormones.
I feel like in the first book, sorry, we're diverting somewhere, but I feel like, there are moments, but they all were made to grow up and act as adults very early in their teenagehood. And so they took actions as adults would, not as children. And then I don't think we've ever talked about this on the podcast, but I know we've talked about this in real life. There's a scene where they're in a different world and it's a sex scene and one of them has a condom, and we'll talk about condoms about this book later. But I was like, you went to a foreign world while fighting a battle with swords with the potential of not surviving, and you brought a condom.
Yeah.
It was such
in your wallet. It wasn't expired, I promise.
It was just such a... I appreciated that the move was about safe sex, and it was pointed out to teenagers that they should be prepared for that. But it was just such a lame duck move that I was just like, no. Hard no. By comparison, and I'm just going to swerve into this, there is a condom buying scene and a condom conversation in this book that is funny and joyful and delightful and adorable and awkward as fuck. And I loved everything about it.
Well, now there was two, because there's one from each point of view of each character. So which one are you talking about?
I loved the whole thing. I'm really, really spoiling the thing that I said much later in our script, but we're just going to get into it now. So I love that we got both experiences, that both of them decided to purchase condoms, and both of them had comfort issues, that neither one of them was so confident and so comfortable going to the store, but each one of them found a different way to do it. Gideon's approach at just walking by and sticking his arm out and grabbing whichever one got caught first.
Total boy maneuver.
Oh, it was so bad good. I was like, I can
Yeah.
see this ridiculously happening.
Mhm.
Oh, and then Ava's experience with having a friend come with her so that so it looked like the friend was doing it. All of it was just
Yeah.
like pure teenage magic. It absolutely took me
Right.
back to like remembering the early days of purchasing prophylactics and being really uncomfortable with that
Yeah.
concept.
I agree. That scene is lovely. The the biggest issue I had with this book, and I love this book. This book was fantastic. Even though it was hard and brutal. But the biggest issue I had was the scene that led to that, where it was from Gideon's point of view, and he's like, "Oh my god, I'm having sex." And he's talking about it in his weird boy sex haze brain. And so and then they were like, "Oh shit, we need a condom." But the way he described it, I was like, already sounds like there was penetration and you needed a condom then."
But there wasn't. He just
But it
like
he like there was rubbing, but he was not clear about the
he was
penetration.
right, he was not clear. And the thing that I actually liked about that scene is that like the entire concept of being not even
Naked.
fully naked with another person,
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
entire like anything past kissing is sex to him. And I loved that he was
Right.
like,
Right.
this is happening. Then he was like, wait, no, and I love that
Right.
he Googled how to make her feel good. How adorably
Uh,
wonderful is that?
uh, yeah, it was really cute. It was really cute that he like Googled how to give orgasms. It was very sweet.
I'm
Uh,
not sure that that's
very
exactly how that works, but I love the
right.
concept of that.
Look, it probably does. The internet exists. There's all these different programs now about like I'm thinking about what is it? OMG Wow or something. There's some program that's called like OMG or something like that where it's a bunch of classes on like on orgasms in your body and like it'll teach you how to edge and like it but it's all in the educational realm. It's very like intimacy experiment-esque. So,
Okay, well,
there's
I
info
just
out there
all right. Well,
and
then
it's sanitized.
to anyone who needs to, please Google that right now. Right this, maybe not right this second, but soon, very soon, your partners will appreciate it.
Mhm.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about the adult support systems and the
Yep.
conversation about the fact that not that this book had really great bad support systems that were expected to be good. So her school counselors did not
Mhm.
handle what she needed very well and what the
Mhm.
school needed altogether. And then her dad was a helpful support system, but not one she needed, not in its entirety.
Mhm.
Right. Like he's
Right.
great and he's really trying and he has all the tools, but he isn't getting he isn't enough. And then the support system that she finds when she switches schools. Uh, this isn't a question so much as a shout out for pointing out that even though a counselor is helpful in theory, not every counselor is helpful to every
Sure.
person going through trauma. And I love that she had like that. I don't love that she had a bad experience to get to a good experience, but I love that that was on the page.
Yeah, I it's very interesting and I'm glad that you brought this up because I didn't realize it until just now, but the book shows like a development of this theme in that she had this bad school experience and we watch her have a really great school experience and what that means for her moving forward. We watch her parents and even Gideon's parents dealing with his situation, which maybe we'll get to or maybe we won't. You know what? Let's do content warnings in just a moment.
Yes.
Um, they both fail initially or like don't succeed and you watch them you get to see them kind of not after the fact or but like having gone through it how they've improved. So you get to see this arc and it's lovely. It's really lovely because a lot of times in YA, the parental units get sort of pushed aside, or they're not even present, or they're hilarious afterthoughts. I think about like the mom from Mean Girls, like just a side note joke. And like this, they were an element. They were a major second character. Content warnings before I forget. So we mentioned in the blurb, Ava's best friend commits suicide. So, and this is a heavy grief book. So, discussions of suicide on the page, heavy discussions of grief and actions derived from grief, which include sex, drinking, drugs, etc. Drugs? Were there drugs? I can't remember drugs. There were some drugs.
They were high. They were high at one point.
There's some partying.
Yeah, there's partying. And then there is we find out exactly what happens to the friend. It's graphically described what happens. So it is on the page.
Exactly. And then for Gideon, we learn historically was a cutter and experiences depression and anxiety, and a lot of his chapters are very much rooted in managing and evading. Would we say evading? Maybe not evading. Dealing with his anxiety and depression.
Yes.
Did I miss anything else?
No, I mean, there's a little bit of abuse, but or at least battery is what I would call it, rather than abuse.
Not relationship. Yeah.
Partner abuse.
Partner abuse. Thank you.
Sorry, going back to I love Gideon. I love Gideon end of sentence, but I love when Gideon was like, I'm okay, or as okay as I can be. I just love that he quantifies that.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I'm great. I mean, I'm definitely like, I've written a list and now I'm okay.
Yep, exactly.
So this is the thing that I want to,
Well, I mean, we're talking about Gideon, so can I please step up onto my my podium of I'm hot for Gideon. It's not weird. It might be weird. You should tell me if it's weird. But Gideon is literally the boy I would have had a crush on in high school. In fact, the boy I had a crush on was floppy haired. And I mean, he wasn't like a poet rapper, but he was an amateur DJ and he loved rapping Vanilla Ice. So pretty close, I think.
Pretty close.
Lanky, skinny white kid. Like, the similarities are endless. And so I had a lot of flashbacks, and I remember how hard that crush felt. So all of the feelings and emotions were right there for me. I don't have a question for you, but I just wanted you to know that I stand Gideon.
But counter to that, I wasn't very sympathetic. That's not true. I didn't like Ava very much. I was very sympathetic to what was happening to her, but I didn't very much like her as a person. And I think that has to do with who I was as a teenager, and how much I had a plan, and I was very driven, and I was like, these are the steps and this is what I'm doing. So I was very much in Gideon's boat in terms of like, finish this, go to this college, do this thing. And she does not, even before the beginning of the book, she does not have a plan. And she kind of maybe has a plan by the end, maybe. And so I didn't like her. I mean, I liked him and he liked her. And so I liked her as the person he liked, but like as a main character, she didn't work for me. Now,
it's interesting because her major defining feature in this book is her grief. Was that she was Kelly's friend. And she's only a main character because she's the main character.
Right. And then she processes or begins to process that grief by the end of the book, which is lovely and wonderful. But that means that the thing that identified her to us as readers is dissolving. And then so at the end of the book, Spoiler alert. At the end of the book, when we're left on a cliffhanger, I can't project the end of that cliffhanger because I genuinely don't know who she is as a person and what choices she would make. I know a lot about what choices he would make, but very little about the choices she would make.
I'm so glad you brought this up because I fucking love the ending of that book.
I hate
because
the ending of the book.
You don't know what she's gonna choose. So they very obviously they break up in the black moment of the book. They say some really terrible things. And Gideon graduates and goes to London to live with his sister because this book is set in Australia. And Ava has another year of high school. And so she goes to high school and like 6 months. So sometime during the fall semester, she gets a letter from him saying like, I still love you, or no, you would love London. As like, it was just like the sweet, I read it twice because I liked it so much. And because I was like, wait, what is she going to choose? I better read this again. Maybe there's more clues. And they're not more clues. You
No.
don't know if she goes to London, but he's like, you would love London. You should come visit. Like, he admitting that he still has feelings for her.
Oh, yeah. He says, you would love London the way I love you. And then that's just it.
That's not quite right, but yes, it's so close. It's so close. And so, like, you can imagine this world where she graduates and she moves to London and she finds herself in London while being in this relationship. And then we've read that book and you're like, maybe she should find herself first, and then go to London. And like, so there's always going to be kebab. They'll always have kebab in their future.
They'll always have
that future, maybe.
Kebab. Yeah, it just that's really why I have a hard time with the ending, because I did not see her beyond this book. And so, and I definitely see Gideon and sort of his aspirations and all of his dreams, and I can imagine some of them coming true and some of them not coming true, but I sort of have a projection of him forward and I don't have one of her.
But isn't that really interesting, because it's the closure of a YA experience. Like, she's no longer a young adult. Like, this is literally the cusp, the gate into new adult, or like, if the book continued, it would be an adult book. Or if there was a sequel, it would be an adult book or a new adult book, not a YA. Literally the end.
Literally the end. Yeah. So, in case you're wondering, truly not a romance novel, because it does not end on a happy ending, or on a coupledom. It does not end on a coupledom. So, in the book,
it might be a happy for now.
Right. It might be happy for now. Agreed.
Yeah, but they're not together. So
they are not together, but there is sort of an implied maybe later. And that each one of them is happy with their choices. So in the book, Gideon and Ava write each other letters. And Gideon sets this rule that he sets a timer for 30 minutes and he writes for 30 minutes and then he puts it in the envelope and mails it to Ava without rereading it. And I want to know, and obviously there were rereads, but I want to know if you think that Claire Christian wrote the letters within the 30-minute timered time, or if they are more thoroughly crafted.
Yes.
You don't think they're just stream of consciousness, like put yourself in the mind of this character and write?
I think there are definitely parts of them that are, but they still have like a structure and a flow, and they have to get to certain points to craft into a plot. So like, if she did, she definitely plotted it out and had to figure out what it needed to say in order to satisfy the rest of the book she was crafting. Perhaps maybe it started that way as an exercise and then got heavily edited, but it definitely wasn't a write 30 minutes and never touch it again.
And then I want to bring up the poems before we get to the break, because they were phenomenal.
Yeah.
And they all made me cry, every single one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How dare she? How dare she be a poet and a playwright and a novelist? It's just rude. And she's like a cool person on Instagram. It's just
precisely
enough
it
already.
Is so rude to be so talented. Please stop. Please put it out there into the world that you're like a bad knitter or something.
I read her post today. Apparently she broke her laptop and she doesn't know if she backed up all of her work to the cloud.
Okay,
so there's like partial playwrights and novels that might be lost forever. So how about that? One fault. I know.
Oh, that is tragic. I am now like rooting for her backup services.
Yes, and her IT people.
And her IT people. And maybe send her some rice, you guys. Dry rice.
She didn't drop it in a puddle. I think she just dropped it full stop on a hard thing.
Oh, sad sauce. Sad sauce. All right. Your last question before we break.
Yes. I mean, that was a nicer place to break, but by God, I'm going to ask my question too. I loved the rejection of toxic masculinity that this book had. Every time there was crying, Gideon cried first, and then maybe Ava cried sometimes. And it just poked me and said, this is okay. This is not like men cry. It's okay. Like it really like poked me in the deep-seated, entrenched toxic masculinity that I was raised around. And it just burst that dam a little bit. So there's just a slow trickling. The balloon is deflating. It's delightful. And that's all. I just wanted to point out that amazingness. Just, this is why I love this book, for reason number 872.
I think you should ask the very last question you wrote down, because that is an excellent place to break.
It is an excellent place to break, but I couldn't tangent it. We're gonna keep that word. I wrote a word. I made up a word from the crying thing. So separate transition. Is it a YA trope to fall in love with your first orgasm?
Yes. Hard yes. Absolutely yes.
I mean, that's the thing about YA. It's all the firsts. It's
also, firsts. That's probably not just YA. That's probably also a lot of people who experience their first orgasm probably are a little in love with their first partnered orgasm. They're probably a little in love with the person who figured it out.
Be in love with your first self orgasm too. Like,
oh yes, please. Yeah, absolutely. And then like repeat, rinse and repeat.
Go me. Definitely rinse. Definitely rinse and repeat. Or don't. Hey.
Yeah, go back to the episode where I rant about cleaning your toys.
I just want to add, I think also biologically, like the first time you experience those rush of endorphins, it feels like love.
Probably, yeah. I mean, why am I saying probably? I at some point experienced it. So yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah?
All right. I want to see some hard data on this. Does anyone have hard data on, do you fall in love with your first orgasm? First partnered orgasm? Just come at me with your hard data. Your very hard data.
I see what you did there. We're going to take an intermission. When we come back, we will discuss our favorite moments from the book and if this book made us want to get naked. All right, and we are back, and we're talking about we're talking about Beautiful Mess by Claire Christian, and we're going to talk about our favorite moments from the book. So, what is your favorite moment?
Kind of all of it. The part from between the beginning and the end.
That's your favorite part. Excellent.
I mean, the first scene, she like stops a school assembly, yells at everybody, and then gives her principal the bird and stomps out. It's fucking brilliant. Like, the balls on that.
Okay, so in
Yeah.
my head, she was very similar to the character in Sex Education.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Excellent.
the
Great.
same vibe,
Sure.
slightly
Yes.
less self-confidence. It's sort of more anger, less self-confidence, but kind of
Mm-hmm.
the same vibe.
Yeah. No, I think you're right on. That's an excellent. I didn't picture her, but yes, agreed. I also loved her punching a bully. This guy that was bullying her in class, and she just fucking laid him out in the class and then got expelled. But turned out for the best. Uh, and then like anytime she and Gideon were talking alone together after they like built this and crafted this friendship together, I wanted more. I wanted to see that scene for the next 100 pages. It's just not enough. It's too many goods.
There are a lot of goods. I think one of my favorites, or at least I think deserving a shout out in my head, is there's an art therapy scene that Ava goes through where she is not sure that she is interested in verbally processing her grief yet. And the counselor gives her a drawing exercise, and then they both create an art piece, and then they talk about what's on the page as an art piece rather than as Ava's emotions. And
Right.
I was immediately like, I want to do this exercise. I want to see what my brain has to say without me opening my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
How
Mm-hmm.
awesome is that? So I was all about that art therapy exercise.
Have you ever just like drawn a line and then you draw more lines off of that line and then that line becomes like an abstract thing?
All the time. Yes. That is
Great.
the
Great,
doodle,
I'm not
right?
alone. Sure. I guess I haven't doodled in a long time. I mean, take someone out of a classroom and the doodling goes right down into the tank. But like, I don't know. Every now and then, I do these certain kinds of doodles that end up looking very like Kandinsky-esque, and that's not the kind of person art doodler I generally was. I'm a bubble letters and a fun fonts kind of doodler, like hard stuff. So
I see. Yeah, the
okay.
brain, like draw the brainwave kind of a thing where you sort of let
Mm-hmm.
your brain notice changes and the pen marks. Yeah, that's a very common doodle for me.
Yeah. Or it's almost like that if I do a line here, it balances the thing. And then if I do 3 dots, that rebalances it. And it's a constant balance. And then at the end, you're like, oh, that looks kind of like a peacock.
Yeah. If you need to give it a name.
Yes, I do. I need to literalize everything.
Give it a name. It's a metaphor.
Give it a name.
Uh
What? To get back on the rails. I'll get it back on the rails this time.
Okay,
What
thank you.
was your hot take for Beautiful Mess?
So it is a great read, particularly. Sorry, this is assumptive because these are not my experiences, but I would imagine that this is a great read for young adults who are going through the trauma that these two main characters went through, and it hopefully it is helpful to read another's experience and to see them get through it day by day, the ugly days and the pretty days and the funny days. I love that this exists, but I also wish that there is a world in which no one needs a trauma book to relate to, right? That's unreal,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm aware. It's very sunshine and
It's
lollipops.
oddly idealistic of you. Are you ill?
Agreed. But no, I think I would imagine that reading this book while feeling these feelings would be really
Mhm.
helpful to see someone else make it
But it could be
through.
really hard too. Like, I don't know, when I'm dark, I don't want to read dark.
I
I don't
mean,
know. Anywho,
but
but I
that's how
see what
you
you're saying.
process. Right, that's how you
Sure.
process. There might be people who process
Right.
better when they're in a when they see other people process in the same way.
That's true. And ultimately the end of this book is it gets better. There
Yes.
like it's not forever. This isn't forever. There is something at the end of the road.
Also, you get to see these two moms, and one of them is an absolute, like, every time she said an inappropriate sex thing, I'm like, yes, mom, yes, please. Embarrass the bejeebus out of your kid. Do it. It's the best.
Yes.
I loved it. It was just so cringy in the best parent way. It was just like, oh, these are the stories that this kid is going to tell about his mom later on in life, when he's just going to be like, and then she would just, ugh. And it's just embarrassing.
Can I be that, like, tortilla Leah? Can I be the awkward sex talk aunt person?
I'm gonna fully give you permission to be the sex talk person, but that means you have to be comfortable saying all those words to these humans that you know right now as tiny humans.
Let's see how it goes. We're, what, 3 years away?
Like 3, I mean, that's the 5. Beginning of it. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Okay. So right. you can be however you want to be, but I'm just letting you know that there might be a day when you're gonna look at them and be like, I don't think I can say that to them without feeling uncomfortable.
It's only awkward if you make it awkward.
I mean, true. I fully plan to be that cringy parent. That, like, I won the award. I won the cringy parent award.
Excellent. Brilliant. For me, I don't like this book. Just reinforced. Let's drink more. It reinforced my love of Claire Christian. I forgot because Noni Blake. My God. We read Noni Blake last summer, so it's been a year.
Yes.
And I'm now just starving for more of her work. So much so, and probably should have done this last year. Am interested in finding her plays. They're not in my local library, damn it. I'll have to forge ahead.
Yes, I fully agree. Yes, her stuff is wonderful and delightful. I enjoyed both of these. I would absolutely read either genre that she creates, because her characters are just so three-dimensional and so real and have such specific emotions. Except for apparently Ava for me, who was three-dimensional but not like fully encapsulated in this book. But
and they have complete journeys.
That's really what it is. Yes, that's really what it is. All right, we always ask this, though it's weird on a YA, but did this book make you want to get naked?
I swear I'm not a pedophile, but only yes, because I'm just the teenage girl that I was is madly in love with Gideon. So, like,
I see.
That's all I'll say about that.
I did not think that it was hot in the way that we typically talk about romance novels, but it was so sweet, and it was funny and candid, and I loved the sexual encounters for them. Like they weren't exciting for me, but they were wonderful for these two people to live through these healthy, exciting, endorphin-filled moments. So, no, but.
Right, no asterisk.
Exactly.
All
right, I feel like anytime we talk about a book that we've really liked, we end the episode early, because, and I feel like I want to hold all of those excited moments inside and not spill them, because then it feels like they've been released into the universe and they are not my excited moments anymore. So I always know when we like a book, when we get through all of the questions earlier in the episode.
Sure. Well, we didn't have a lot to bitch about. That's true.
Yes, right.
You know, one thing we didn't talk about was the tattoo on her boss's ass. So her boss, who owns the Magic Kebab, well, both of their bosses, they both work at Magic Kebab. shows his tattoo to Gideon, and it's on his ass. And you have to remind me a little bit of the specifics, but it's a kangaroo holding a kebab like a penis, riding a kebab, fighting a kebab.
It's a kangaroo boxing a kebab, but the kebab on a stick looks very phallic. So it looks like a kangaroo, an out of proportion kangaroo boxing a phallus.
Excellent. How big did you imagine that tattoo?
I was really trying not to.
Or like tramp stamp sized?
I was thinking more modest, because we sort of need to get into like, what does it mean that your employer shows you their entire left cheek? How, especially if you're a teenager, like that sort of crosses some really crazy boundaries that I hope is not the case. So I'm hoping it's just like
boys.
I mean, I have no way of commenting on that being not one of them.
True. They take their penises out in the bathrooms. That's like a butt cheek feels like nothing.
I've never thought of it that way, but I see your point.
There you go. You're welcome.
I'm never getting that image out of my head. Whoa.
Just in case you were wondering, it was fairly large in my head. Like, comically, not full butt cheek, but like 60% butt cheek. Just for the detail. It needs detail, so it had to be large.
Very good. Yeah, it was a whole thing. It was a whole lot. We also didn't talk about the lettuce scene, and the lettuce scene is delightful.
Rotten lettuce has never been more sexy.
It's true. It's true. But see, it's really hard to talk about it because it's a scene that's really lovely and wonderful, and I just don't want to tell you about it because I want to keep it for myself.
I'll tell you about it. So they have to clean out the freezer, right? And they start having a food fight, and then they get like close together, and it's from Gideon's point of view, and he thinks that they're gonna kiss. And oh no, they do kiss. They're kissing, and like she runs her hands down his body, and he feels like she's gonna go and she's gonna put her hands in his pants, and then she stuffs rotten lettuce into his pants, and the food fight continues. Food fight was sexy. And so then he has to try and get it out of his pants, and she's helping him, and their boss catches them. And
the lettuce. They mean the lettuce. He has to get the lettuce out of his pants.
Yes, not his penis. I mean, go to the men's room. He'll take out his penis from his pants anyway. That's just what you do.
Yes, the lettuce.
Goodbye, everybody. Just leave that. Just cut.
And on that note,
yep. See you next time.
Thank you for joining us for an episode of Booklandia.
For more Booklandia, follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at l.skyford, Twitter at skyfordl, and hit up our blog, lskyford.com.
We love you to the moon and back, so don't forget to rate and subscribe.
Our eternal thanks for the audio editing and support provided by Finnegan Murphy, who you can find on Twitter at Finnegan1, that's FIONNEGAN, numeral 1, and sometimes Sky herself.